After the nets were burned, the town felt lighter. That scared people more than the weight ever did. The docks were bare. No ropes coiled, no engines coughing, awake before dawn. Fishing had always been the town's noise. Without it, every sound stood out. Footsteps, breathing, water. They told themselves the danger was gone. No nets meant no invitations. No boats meant no reach. But the sea didn't need either. It began with the feeling. People started pausing mid-step near the shoreline, stopping for no reason. They'd turn their heads because something felt directed, not movement, not sound, pressure, like standing in front of a crowd you can't see, knowing every face is turned toward you. Children were the first to say it out loud. They always are. They stopped playing near the water. When asked why, they gave the same answer in different words. It's looking, not at us, through us. Parents laughed it off until they started feeling it too. At night, bedroom windows facing the sea felt wrong. Curtains stayed closed, lights stayed off, and still sleep came thin and restless. People dreamed of depth, not drowning, not falling, just distance. An endless downward stretch where something far below kept perfect pace with them. Watching, waiting. The first death wasn't blamed on the sea. It should have been. Martin Holley, 73, a retired fisherman. Heart attack, that's what the doctor said. Except Martin was found standing at the edge of the shore, shoes dry, toes just touching the water. His eyes were wide open, frozen in place like he'd been caught mid-conversation. In his hand was his old compass. The needle spun endlessly, but only when pointed toward the water. They'd buried Martin inland, far from the sea. Still, people swore they saw him at night, standing in the shallows, staring out, never moving, just watching back. Then the sounds started. Not waves, steps, measured, slow, always just out of sight. People would hear them from their kitchens, their bedrooms, their locked homes. Wet footsteps pacing outside, stopping, waiting. When doors were opened, there was nothing. No water, no prints. But the air smelled briny, deep. The town council met in emergency session. They talked about relocation, about evacuation, about money they didn't have and places that didn't want them. But no one talked about the real problem, because no one wanted to be the first to say it. The sea wasn't reaching anymore. It was observing. Caleb Morn hadn't gone near the water since the rope appeared in his room. But that didn't stop the dreams. Every night he stood on the deck of the Mercy Jane. Elias Rowe stood beside him. Not wet, not damaged, just hollow. In the dreams, Elias never spoke. He only looked down into the water. And Caleb understood something without being told. Elias wasn't lost. He was employed. Caleb began sketching without realizing it. Circles, depth lines, eye shapes. Always the same pattern. Something vast beneath a thin surface. Something using stillness like camouflage. He showed the drawings to no one because he noticed something else. The longer he stared at them, the stronger the feeling became that whatever was below could see through the paper. The first person to break completely was Lena Shore, a schoolteacher, practical, unsuperstitious. She stood in front of her class mid-lesson, stopped speaking, and slowly turned toward the window, toward the ocean, and said, "It blinks when I stop looking." She walked out. Didn't lock her door. Didn't leave a note. She was found 2 days later, floating, face up, eyes missing. The coroner refused to write cause of death because there was no water in her lungs, no trauma, no explanation for the rope marks around her ankles. That night, every window facing the sea reflected something strange. Not the moon, not stars, movement, slow shapes shifting beneath the surface, as if the water were thinning, becoming transparent. People turned mirrors to the walls, covered glass, avoided reflections, because sometimes when you looked long enough, the reflection didn't move when you did. The town finally understood. The sea didn't need nets, didn't need boats, didn't need storms. It only needed to be noticed. And now that it had their attention, it wasn't going to look away. They say predators chase, they stalk, they attack, but some creatures don't hunt. They wait until you realize you're already seen, and by then it's too late to stop watching back. Next time on The Fisherman Who Vanished in Calm Waters. The logbook